One gesture, one word, one look was enough for me to realize the truth, but I pretended to know nothing until the end. Find out how things turned out at the end of the story. The flight was supposed to land 2 days later. That's what the itinerary said. What Julie believed. What I wanted her to believe. I didn't tell anyone I was cutting the trip short, not my coworkers, not even the driver who usually picked me up at the airport. I rented a car instead, paid in cash, swapped my watch for one that didn't sync to any cloud, and drove home with my phone off. Just the hum of the engine and a slow-burning thought. If she was hiding something, I was going to catch it raw, unfiltered, real. It was just past 6 p.m. when I pulled onto our street. A dusty orange glow lit the neighborhood like it was holding its breath. I saw him before I saw the house. Our neighbor Craig, shirt damp with sweat, arms wrapped around a box, walking quickly toward his garage like he didn't want anyone to see. The way he flinched when I pulled in told me everything I needed to know. Not guilt, panic. Like a man realizing the trap he thought he'd avoided just snapped shut. He dropped the box and stumbled through a line about helping Julie with some storage stuff. Said she asked him to hold on to some of our things. I didn't say a word. Just nodded, like I believed him, and walked inside. Julie wasn't home. Not yet. But her scent was vanilla and some overpriced lavender crap she swore relaxed her nerves. I moved through the house without turning on lights, ears sharp to the silence. Upstairs, our bedroom looked untouched at first. The bed was made. Her jewelry tray was full. But when I opened the closet, something felt off. Too neat. Too intentional. My shirts were spaced just right, shoes aligned in militant symmetry. And then I saw them. A pair of men's sneakers, not mine, tucked behind her yoga bag. One lace caught in a fold of her gray cable-knit sweater. That sweater was a gift. I gave it to her on our second anniversary. She wore it every time she claimed she was crashing on the couch during her late office nights. Now it wrapped someone else's shoes. Still, I said nothing. Not that night. I didn't touch the shoes. Didn't leave a note. Just walked out, made a sandwich I didn't eat, and sat on the patio, staring at the wind chimes that never seemed to move when she was home. I didn't sleep. I planned. The next day, I drove to a hardware store an hour outside the city, bought a small outlet camera and a pack of tools, installed it in the laundry room behind the outlet near the folding table, angled just right, subtle, hidden, a single blinking light inside the shell that looked like a power reset button. She wouldn't notice it. She never folded anything herself anyway. A week passed. I played the part, cooked dinner, talked about work, even kissed her forehead when she fake yawned through a Netflix special I knew she'd never seen. She didn't notice anything different in me, which meant she wasn't looking. That's the thing about liars. They assume everyone else is blind. Then the video came. It pinged just past 11 p.m. I was sitting in the office downstairs pretending to catch up on invoices. I opened the app and hit play. There she was in the laundry room, barefoot, wine glass in hand, laughing. Craig stepped into frame a moment later, holding that same gray sweater, draped over his shoulder like some victory flag. He kissed her. She let him. They stayed for nearly 2 hours. I watched the entire thing in silence, the way you'd watch a fire spread across dry grass. Not fast, not dramatic, just inevitable. I didn't confront her, not then. I waited until she left for her spin class the next morning and opened the safe in our closet. Inside were our passports, her birth certificate, our kids' immunization records. I took her driver's license, her passport, her insurance card, and one backup credit card. I left the rest untouched. Then I slid a new set of license plates under the passenger seat of her car. Same numbers, different state. She wouldn't notice. She rarely noticed anything unless it sparkled or buzzed with a notification. That night, I began a list. I didn't title it. Just a plain, blank document with bullet points. First her name, then Craig's, then bank accounts, email addresses, places she liked to meet clients, passwords she reused, the coffee shop she always claimed had the best Wi-Fi when she needed to send proposals. I had nothing but time and curiosity. I knew then I wasn't going to ask why. I was going to find out how far. I'd already started sleeping in the guest room before I had an excuse. A pulled muscle, I told her. Too much travel. Bad sleep posture. She nodded, too distracted by some video on her phone to care. That's how I knew I was invisible to her now, like a prop in the backdrop of her carefully filtered life. She didn't even ask which muscle I pulled. I wasn't angry, I was focused. Hey, 3 days later I met with someone I trusted more than my own brother, a paramedic named Ken, who owed me for something from years back. I didn't call him to cash in the favor. I just asked him one question. Can you run a DNA test without anyone noticing? He looked at me like I just asked if he could fly a helicopter, then nodded once and said, "You'll have results in a week." I handed him a sealed envelope with swabs from both kids. Our boys, Ethan and Miles. Ethan looked like me, even had my stubborn squint and crooked fingers. But Miles, something had always felt off. I loved him, of course. That wasn't the issue. But love doesn't rewrite genes. While Ken worked in silence, I started shadowing Julie's boss. Not in a trench coat on the subway way. This wasn't some amateur private eye fantasy. I got myself invited to one of the business development events her firm hosted twice a year. Formal enough to hide in, casual enough to blend into. I wore a slate gray suit, new watch, same voice. Told her boss I'd always admired the company's strategic approach. He lapped it up. Called me the rare kind of husband who gets it. Poured me wine like we were old friends. I smiled, nodded, waited. By the end of the night, I knew more about his personal interests than Julie probably did. He liked cars, old blues vinyl, and women who listened more than they talked. I dropped a reference to a private art exhibit I had early tickets for. Suddenly, I was charming. Suddenly, I wasn't just Julie's husband. A week passed. Then the video came. Julie sitting outside a cafe in her gray blazer. Same one she wore to client meetings. A man slid into the seat across from her. Not Craig. This one wore a charcoal sport coat and mirrored sunglasses. He passed her an envelope. She smiled. Tight-lipped. Guilty. The camera angle wasn't perfect, but the exchange was unmistakable. When she got home that night, she was humming in the kitchen, stirring something she probably warmed up and claimed she made. I watched her from the hallway. The same woman who once cried when I forgot our anniversary. Now laughing at a podcast while pocketing dirty money. I didn't confront her. Instead, I uploaded the footage to a secure cloud folder and sent an anonymous tip to the local tax office. Undeclared cash transactions, I wrote, pattern consistent with financial misrepresentation. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even aggressive. It was precision, like flipping a switch in a house she didn't know was wired to explode. Then the DNA results arrived. Ethan, 99.9% match. No surprise, but Miles, less than 1%. Ken had highlighted the text in yellow, like he thought I'd miss it. The words burned into the page, not yours. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I walked upstairs, tucked the boys into bed, kissed their foreheads, and told them I loved them. My voice didn't shake. That night, I didn't sleep in the guest room. I left the house entirely. Before I walked out, I left the house keys on her pillow, tied them together with a red ribbon she'd once used to wrap my birthday present. Then I walked into the bathroom and fogged the mirror with the hottest water the tap could push out. In the steam, I scrawled 7 words with my fingertip. Now is not the time to talk. Then I was gone. 5 days off the map. No texts, no calls. Just me and the boys in a rented cabin upstate. Quiet mornings with pancakes and syrup. Long hikes through early autumn leaves. I made them laugh again, made them forget the static of tension that had buzzed through the house for months. They never asked about their mom, and I didn't bring her up. By the 3rd day, her parents filed a missing persons report. She told them I took the kids, but she knew. Deep down, she knew. I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. Back in town, I filed in court. Custody and protection orders, both. The court date was set, 2 weeks out. I didn't want to fight her in front of the boys, but I was done playing dead in front of her lies. She wanted a clean break. She was about to get a surgical cut. Coming back to town felt like stepping into a crime scene where the body had already been removed. Everything looked the same. Trimmed lawns, familiar coffee shop signs, Julie's coworkers laughing on corners like they hadn't noticed a storm building overhead. But under it all, there was a shift. I wasn't here to pick up where we left off. I was here to dismantle what she built from the inside out. I rented an office 2 blocks from her new job. Nothing flashy, just a second-floor space with a dusty window and a door that stuck if you didn't push it right. I didn't need it to look good. I needed a base, a place to gather, to watch, to listen. First, I mapped her week. I tracked her calls through a number I cloned from her phone while she slept 6 weeks ago. Everything she said to Craig, to her boss, to her friends, every "I'm so stressed," every "he's gone crazy," poured into a log I read like scripture. Her social media was just as telling. Likes, comments, saved locations. She was still careless, still broadcasting her life to anyone who'd listen. The caption beneath a recent brunch photo read, "Hard choices build strong women." I didn't laugh. I just took a screenshot. Through her boss, still oblivious to what was coming, I secured 2 tickets to a private gallery opening she was desperate to attend. I gave them to the boss himself, along with a rare bottle of red he couldn't stop raving about the last time we spoke. He handed them to Julie like a token of appreciation, told her to bring someone who deserved a good night. She invited Craig. Perfect. But I didn't go alone either. I brought his wife. Her name was Erin. Dark hair, sharp voice, eyes like someone who never let herself forget anything. We'd met through the web of mess Julie never realized she left behind. Erin had suspected something for a while. Changed laundry habits, odd receipts, late returns from work. She wanted answers. I gave her more than that. I gave her proof. We met outside the gallery an hour before the event. She was calm, angry but not broken. We rehearsed the timing, the positioning, the conversation. I wasn't doing this for drama. I needed documentation. Legal, clear, unavoidable. When Julie arrived with Craig, she looked perfect. Her dress matched the exact shade of wine she'd be sipping by the second hour. Craig looked nervous, like a man who still hadn't figured out if he was being hunted. They didn't notice us at first, not until they reached the bar. Then Erin stepped forward, blocking Craig's path like a locked door. Julie froze. Her face flickered. Shock, confusion, then the slow rising panic of someone who's just been outplayed. I stepped beside Erin, said nothing, just handed Julie a manila folder thick with printed photos, emails, logs, and the DNA results. Craig opened his mouth, but nothing came out. 2 witnesses I'd arranged from the gallery, neutral, unrelated, stood nearby, phones discreetly filming. Beside them, a lawyer I'd hired days earlier. She wasn't here to argue. She was here to observe, validate, and later submit. Julie's fingers trembled as she flipped through the papers. A video still of her and Craig in our laundry room. A copy of the IRS form with her undeclared income highlighted in yellow. A close-up of the cafe transaction, her receiving that envelope. At the bottom, the DNA summary, Miles's name circled in red ink. She said something. I didn't hear it. I didn't need to. She lunged toward me, quick, desperate. But security moved faster. Gallery policy. 0 tolerance for aggressive behavior. She was ushered back with controlled force, her voice dissolving into noise. I didn't touch her. Didn't even blink. The next day, the internal audit began. Her firm called it a routine performance review. Within 3 hours, she was suspended pending investigation. They seized her work laptop, questioned her assistant, reviewed surveillance from that cafe. I didn't pull strings. I didn't need to. I just lit the match and let the oxygen do the rest. Meanwhile, I diverted all her pending deliveries to her parents' house. Dozens of them, everything she ordered in the past 3 weeks. Dresses, books, vitamin kits, skin serums, a stack of monogrammed stationery with Julie P. embossed in gold. I left a note in one of the boxes, just 5 words. Deeper from here. Keep digging. Then I locked the P.O. box we used together and reset every password she ever thought we shared. That night, I made grilled cheese sandwiches with the boys and let them fall asleep on the couch watching cartoons. I didn't tell them what happened. They didn't ask. Maybe they felt it, the weight shifting, the pressure lifting. Maybe they didn't need to know everything. Not yet. Julie didn't come home after the gallery. She must have thought staying away would pause the consequences, that if she waited long enough, the weight would lift, the mess would untangle itself. She underestimated how deep I'd cut. You can't avoid what's already embedded in the walls of your house, except now it wasn't her house anymore. I moved forward with the sale that same week. I had quietly filed for sole ownership months earlier when she started losing her tax documents and acting like our safe was her personal file drawer. The authorization was notarized, backdated, and legal. All the signatures were there, including hers, signed on the same day she rushed through paperwork to buy herself more consultation time with the IRS breathing down her neck. Furniture? Moved into storage? Smart home controls? Reset. All her voice commands disabled. She couldn't open the garage if she stood on it and screamed. She didn't know about the sale until the moving trucks pulled into the driveway. She arrived 30 minutes after the last box left, dressed like she still had authority. One heel on the driveway, one eyebrow raised like she thought this was a misunderstanding she could outtalk. But I was already inside, handing the final set of keys to the new owner's agent. The cruiser showed up while we were still signing. A local officer, young, polite, said she called in a claim, something about stolen documents, illegal sale, fraud. She even used the word hostage, as if her silence had been some kind of imprisonment. The officer looked confused. I didn't blame him. I reached into my bag and handed him the folder. Ownership transfers, lawyer signatures, digital receipts, her signature on page 3. She signed this, he said, flipping through. She didn't read it, I added, but that's not illegal. Julie's voice cracked then. First a shout, then something desperate underneath, words too jumbled to make out. Her face, once polished and sharp, now looked hollow. That kind of panic when someone realizes they've run out of plays and everyone else already left the table. The officer said gently, "Ma'am, this all checks out." She didn't even look at me. She turned and walked to her car. But it wasn't hers, not legally. The plates were wrong, the insurance had lapsed, and I'd quietly flagged it as a security concern 2 days earlier. When she tried to start it, the system froze. One call from me, and the GPS shut it down. So she stood there in silence. The same silence I'd lived in for months. When she lied, when she disappeared, when she used our family like a currency she could trade for nights in hotel rooms she never paid for. She wasn't crying. That's the thing. Julie never cried when it mattered, only when there was an audience. The next morning I was in Colorado. The boys and I checked into a small lodge near the base of the mountain. Ethan begged to try snowboarding. Miles asked if he could just ride the lift and come back down. I didn't tell him what I knew. I didn't tell him what the paper said, what the statistics said about paternity and strangers and blood. I just said, "You'll be great," and meant every word. The first night, we sat by a stone fireplace, the boys wrapped in thick lodge robes, marshmallows melting into cups too hot to hold. I let them fall asleep on the carpet, and I didn't move them. They looked peaceful, untethered. I watched the flames for a while and thought about how Julie always hated the cold, how she said snow made her feel trapped. It never did that to me. It made everything quiet. Later that night, I logged into the school portal and updated both of their names. No hyphen, just mine. I stared at the form for a long time before I clicked submit. Then I opened my phone and pulled up her contact. Her name still sitting there, wedged between a dentist appointment and an old contractor we'd used for kitchen tile. I pressed delete. I thought it might feel final. It didn't. It felt clean. I turned the phone over and set it face down on the table. Outside, the snow had started again. Soft, steady, clean. And inside, nothing from her remained. Not even a window to the past. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.